In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, Josh fans, and happy Easter. Or is it Christmas? One's a birth, one's a resurrection. It's kind of the same, right?
Yeah, kind of similar.
Okay. Well, anyway, welcome to the second episode of this season's The Josh Says. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about last night's 2CW's Living on the Edge internet pay-per-view. We're going to discuss how Extreme Rules is currently shaping up to be, and after the 2 weeks of silence about it, other than the non-silence on the website in textual form, but hey, it wasn't verbal, so it doesn't count. We're going to discuss a little bit of the fallout of some events from Wrestlemania, some of the more important things. And going forward, of course. To begin, I thought we'd kick it off with the most memorable moment of WrestleMania 30, and that would be the ending of the streak. What were your thoughts when the referee's hand hit that mat for the third time after that third F5, and the entire audience just went?
Pretty much, just shock.
That's all you got.
I think the Taker should have lost forever ago. He's old. He's washed up. Get mad, hate me, whatever. It's the truth. He should have hung up the boot a good 5 years ago, when he was still in his prime, not an old man. Do I like Brock Lesnar? No, I absolutely hate him. But I think do what you gotta do. That's who Taker wanted. That's how it is.
Well, I guess that sort of covers it. Personally, my first reaction was, damn, I was kind of right. I've been speaking about it for a few days previous that, watch them just decide to do the one thing no one expects them to do and actually give the streak to Brock Lesnar. I had commented on it before the match had begun. I had commented on it earlier in the week on the bus with a friend of mine who actually would join us for the WrestleMania pay-per-view. And he turned to me as the ref hit his hand for the third count, and he took a moment to let it sink in, turned to me and did, well, what everyone kind of does, bowed in worship of the Josh and the awesomeness that was his prediction of Lesnar putting Taker down. That prediction, of course, was something I made in a watch them do it just because they can sort of way, not because I actually thought it was going to happen. Well, I can't necessarily say that either. But, that's irrelevant. The discussion here is now kind of how this has changed the landscape. Also, this episode of The Josh Says is brought to you by Coca-Cola's wonderful energy drink producing products, Full Throttle and NOS, which you may not be able to see over there. But it's what's keeping the twirl twirling. Well, among other things. But that we won't be discussing on camera. Not for you guys, anyway. Okay, so the fallout now of the streak once again brings back that anything can happen in the WWE, as no one, well, I can't say no one, but I would be pretty confident in predicting close to no one believed the streak would end when it did, if ever. I brought that nice quick, oh my god, I can't believe that happened moment back to wrestling. It also signified the end of Taker. Time for him to make his way out to pasture. The thing about this now is it's been discussed for years on the internet if the streak were to end. How would they do it? How would it affect the person that ended it? And it's been pretty unanimously felt that whoever did it was going to catch some major shit. Now, people catch shit on the internet all the time. All you really need is a username and an opinionated website to make a comment on, and you spark some internet heat. They hate you. But this would be a different level. And a comment I had made was that Brock Lesnar is one of those guys who just doesn't really seem to care. Like, the legitimate hate just wouldn't faze him. Now, a younger star like Roman Reigns or Bray Wyatt or Cesaro, people like that, had they done it, that could have irreparably damaged their career, forever being the person that no one felt should have done it, regardless of what they did afterwards. Now, the way this has been done, it's been established that Paul Heyman was the mastermind behind the end of the streak. Paul Heyman defeated The Undertaker's streak in his second attempt. Then, by anointing Cesaro as his next Paul Heyman guy, and if you haven't realized this yet, allow me to inform you, Paul Heyman's client, Brock Lesnar, conquered the streak. 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 Now, if you've watched any wrestling this week, you've seen that repeated a number of times, just not in the Paul Heyman form. We get the point, but that's the point. That was kind of punny, no? Alright, well, shut up, doesn't matter. Anyway, Paul Heyman's the major heat factor there. He's the one transferring the heat from Brock Lesnar and putting the heat into the push behind Cesaro. Cesaro is gaining all the benefits that can be reaped from the streak being ended, but gaining none of the negative aspects. Works perfect, which ties us into our second topic of the same situations here, and that is Cesaro, the winner of the 31-man over-the-top Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. What an impressive fashion to win. I know, old news now, but suck it, I haven't gotten to talk about it yet. I don't think she realizes what a Q is. Let's try this again. What an impressive way to win. Blah, 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 suck it, my opinion.
Cesaro deserved it. He needed the push. It will boost him up.
I think what my co-partner person here is attempting to say is, wow, what a body slam over the top rope. You're welcome. Would you like to add anything else to that?
No.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good.
Alrighty then. Now, the ramifications of the occurrence speak to what was just spoken here, and to what I've previously tied in with. Great moment for a great talent, but it turned out to be a night of many moments for many talents. The obvious mention that hasn't been mentioned yet here, well, not yet, but just yet here, trust me, that makes sense, is the Daniel Bryan title win. We all pretty much assumed it was going to happen, but we all kind of thought it wasn't either. It did. It was wonderful. Within a week, he was marrying and banging legally Brie Bella. She got herself some D. Right. Sorry, but that picture was funny. If you haven't seen it, then you don't deserve to be on the interwebs. Unless you're viewing this website, then that's a different story. You need to be on the interwebs for that. So, moving on. Before getting to the Extreme Rules card, Twirl and Josh recently were able to view our local promotion 2CW's internet pay-per-view. It's still available to be purchased and streamed online. They give you a 7-day access to it. It's $9.99, the same price the WWE Network costs per month. Except it's a one event thing. The event clocked in at about 3.5 hours long and was main evented by AJ Styles taking on Johnny Gargano, whose name I'd heard a few times before, though had never actually seen him in action. Hands down, probably the best match on the card. AJ Styles gave a nice little promo afterwards, a reference to not working for TNA anymore, working for the fans. Was kind of turned more towards the 2CW element, but kind of meant the same thing. A couple other people you may or may not have heard of that were on the card. What did they call him? Fat Hardy, Matt Farty.
Matt Farty.
Matt Farty, that's what the commentator called him. Once, then correct himself. Matt Hardy took on a 2CW local talent, the Juggernaut Jason X, in one of the night's better contests. The opening contest was a little disappointing in my estimation, but having seen Kevin Steen live and watching a smaller promotion over the internet doesn't quite translate the reactions and the feeling of the crowd while you're there, which is, if you've ever been to an indie show, you understand what I'm talking about. But Steen and Alex Shelley were in the opening contest. It was a solid contest for the most part. I mean, it ended in a way that I was quite pleased with because I was pleased by who won. But I felt the match could have been a little better. Only being that having seen Steen live, I've seen the kind of stories he can tell in the ring, and he could have had a little more time to tell a little more, which I think would have made the match and the show overall a bit better. But still, it was a solid show for $10. To be honest, I'd spend $10 for 3.5 hours of Kevin Steen. What can I say? He has a man crush on me. He hugged me once. I got a T-shirt for it too. Maybe I'll wear it later. But yeah, and we saw Tajiri with Mikey Whipwreck. For those who were not familiar with their ECW teamings, the Dangerous Alliance. They took on another indie team. They're now going by Ohio something Killers. Ohio is for Killers. Jacob and Dave Christ. They were, I want to say, the Irish Air Force or the Irish Airborne or Irish Air something many years ago now, and I believe it was ROH. Maybe 2005 or 2005, which I believe it was 2005. Yes. That was a solid contest too, but you can find them on there. And overall, for $10 wasn't that bad of a deal for a show. The main event was worth that alone. Yeah. At least in my estimation. Maybe you don't think the same, and if that's the case, then once again, suck it. Just suck it. And I repeat, suck it. Paul Heyman's client, Brock Lesnar, conquered the streak. You're welcome, Jeremy. So yeah. Anything you'd like to add on the Living on the Edge aspect?
It was a good pay-per-view. I liked the tag team match. I liked Alex Shelley versus Kevin Steen. It did need to be a little bit longer, but overall it was decent. And the match of the night was AJ Styles versus Gargano.
Or maybe it's Gargano. Maybe it's Gargano at the night, or Voldemort.
But yeah, it's worth giving a check.
Yes it is. So now, Extreme Rules is 2 weeks away. We'll be doing our next web show just before Extreme Rules to cover all the bases. Before we get into that, I would like to take a quick moment to remind you that on the joshsays.com, that's TheJoshSays dot, the period, com, com. Yes, at thejoshsays.com, you can run through the blog, take a look at the various reviews that will be done regularly now throughout the week. In fact, I do believe Twirl will be twirling her way through SmackDown on a regular basis. Each show's review you can expect within approximately 24 hours of airing. There will be certain times where that will be a bit different, especially towards weekend-based articles or articles timing around the same time as the web show, as we will be trying to keep the web show a top priority this time around. You can look forward to some new stuff potentially popping up, along with, like I said, the regularly weekly reviews of various television shows on the WWE Universe, of course. And thanks to the WWE Network, 90% of that is viewable whenever. Which, by the way, is also $9.99 a month, with a 6-month commitment, that is. And they currently have that free 1-week trial. I wonder if they'll pay me if I keep talking about it. I don't know. So, moving on, Extreme Rules, 2 weeks away. The night that WWE likes to talk about going extreme. Remember when that used to be One Night Stand? Of course you do, because I said you did. So we knew it. Well, I'm not sure if that was actually the one that was One Night Stand, but, that was the exact time frame anyway. But that's when they had their one night of Extreme for a couple of years. Extreme Rules has generally been a interesting night. I believe it was actually Extreme Rules a few years ago that Sheamus won his first WWE Championship from John Cena in what was rumored to be an accidental finish to a match when Cena fell through a table. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Part of me wouldn't be surprised. But, I kind of wish it wasn't, because then that means that Cena lost the belt by accident. And that would suck. I'd rather he lost it on purpose. Well, you know what I mean. This year, so far, we have 3 matches announced. We're going to cover those first. And then I'd like to take a moment to discuss my opinions on what I think is going to shape up to be the rest of the card. Now, initially announced, we have the Divas Championship match. Divas title recently won by the NXT Women's Champion Paige from AJ Lee on the post-Mania SmackDown in her debut to Raw with a failed-looking page turner. Interestingly enough, since then she uses her Scorpion crosslock, as they call it. Probably a better option, though it's looked good with the people she's used it with their particular talents lying where they do. Her opponent is going to be Tamina, who won a Battle Royal on Main Event, which if you've already read the Josh's Main Event review this week, then you know that. If you haven't, then you're a bad donkey and you deserve a spanking. A few people will catch that. If you don't, suck it. Suck it. Paul Heyman's client, Brock Lesnar, conquered the streak. So, your thoughts, Tamina versus Paige. I believe at the last episode, she went on about how Tamina was hungry and wanted the belt, and she was wrong because she didn't get it, but that's what she had said then. What are your thoughts on Paige versus Tamina?
It can go either way. I like both of them, but I think they're going to leave the belt right where it is right now. They're not going to just stay here, Tamina, after just getting the stage.
Well, the story is whether or not Paige is a flash in the pan, and I suppose giving her Tamina was quite the tall order to begin attempting to make a real reign out of this. Should be a potentially decent match. Tamina had a few good matches on NXT when she was down there for a while. I don't recall if she ever crossed paths with Paige, but Paige is a true student of the game, and as a female in the WWE, fitting that mold, really fitting that mold, not just being perceived to fit that mold like a couple of others have been. Multi-generational. I think this is a good time for the Divas division, and I see some good things coming out after this match. Potentially, this could be the match that really makes Paige for the foreseeable future. They really will help define the division. I'm pretty sure Paige is going to win, but we'll have time to discuss predictions in 2 weeks. The other matches announced, moving on, is the steel cage match between John Cena and Bray Wyatt. I'd just like to say, John Cena, shut up. I swear. I mean it. Heath. You can't try and steal Heath Ledger's lines. Especially not from the Joker. And especially not make him suck so much. A few of us were talking Monday night about Cena's promo and his pictographs, which that's not really the right word for it, but I like it, so we're going to say pictographs, of the Wyatt family, doing his typical Cena make fun of people thing. Sean, formerly known as Captain Girl Pants. No, that's right, we didn't go with Captain Girl Pants. Sergeant Likes It in the Butt. No, we didn't go with that one either. General Smith. No. Oh, Sergeant Pretty Boy, now known as Mr. Not So Perfect. That's probably him going off in the messenger too. Discussed how he hated it because of blah 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 blah. It didn't matter because he's wrong. Now see, the important thing behind all this happening at this point is that John Cena's back to being his cocky, arrogant self. Bray Wyatt is still playing the games he's been playing. Cena thinks by getting Wyatt alone in the cage, it's going to make things perfect for him. But in reality, it's going to make it perfect for Wyatt. And what the not-so-perfect one was failing to notice is, well, the adage is that pride comes before the fall. The more confident Cena becomes, the more it builds the story to a potential fall at the hands of Bray Wyatt. Now, we're not really good at putting any fall on John Cena, ever, but there's always holding out hope. Either way, it should be a rather good match. Cena works well inside of a cage, and, well, Bray just works well wherever you put him. Anything you gotta say about that match in general, not necessarily the winning aspect, but your thoughts on the way it's been built? Or
It went decently. Bray is doing exactly what he needs to do. He's trying to turn Cena into something more than what he is. He's getting in his head. He's playing the game.
Technically, aren't the Shield playing the game? And there's your tie into the next match announced. Evolution versus the Shield, 3-on-3. Arguably the two most dominant factions in wrestling history. Unchanging at their core, remaining consistently dominant. I gotta say, sorry about that, we're back after a little bit of technical difficulty. Turns out, when you're awesome, a camera can only record so much of you at one time. So we cut out right at the end of me giving a nice little talk about the Shield and about Evolution, and yeah, I think I'll be nice now, and I will turn the floor over to the Twirl. Twirl something out there for us.
I'm excited to see Evolution back. Maybe, just maybe, I won't hate Randy Orton. I used to be a humongous fan. Then he turned into a cry-ass. Not feeling it. I really do. It's going to be an awesome match. They're all well-matched against each other. Each one can do things that, you know, it's going to be an awesome match.
It'll be interesting in a way, because technically it'll be Reigns and Batista matching up on the strength end. Rollins and Orton matching up on the younger, well, slightly younger technical side. And it'll be Ambrose and Triple H matching together in the mind games of one another. The cerebral assassin versus the mouth of the Shield. I do like the way they've made the slight change of them being each individual person being defined as a particular role. The muscle being Reigns, the tactician is what they refer to Seth Rollins as. But Ambrose is the one I'm most looking forward to seeing in this environment. Your Ambrose has already had some training at the hands of people like William Regal and other people who know the sort of mind game aspect of the wrestling characters. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the way that plays out. That's actually about the gist of what we had planned to cover tonight. One last thing. Last week was the passing of the Ultimate Warrior. It's a very slightly depressing day. So yeah, I had some stuff planned I wanted to do in tribute to that didn't pan out for tonight, but not to be necessarily completely overshadowed. My family also had a loss the same week. My father lost his grandmother, his mother, LaFaye Smith, who unfortunately I had never had the opportunity to meet. Not that that really is relevant to most of you, but just something I felt the need to share. We'll be back with you in 2 weeks' time for Extreme Rules.